Hi, Colin. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, as you know, this show is about unveiling the current state of mental health in America. And I know your story is very rich, and you've had a lot of experience or interface with the mental health system. So I can't wait for you to share your story with our listeners and our viewers. First of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Colin Wells. I'm a U.S. Army infantry veteran. I served in Afghanistan. I am the founder of a hiking group and a members group called Veterans Walk and Talk, where we encourage walking and talking amongst your peers and partaking in therapies that work for many other veterans that we've seen, particularly cannabis and mushroom-based therapies, and mainly just creating the community that veterans need to heal, because the VA wasn't going to do it for us, so we did it ourselves. And so now we are 4 chapters strong across the country, over 200 members, with plans on being national as soon as possible, when COVID stops. Wow. And so, yeah, that's me.
Well, fascinating story. Thank you for your service, first and foremost. And thank you for your continued service outside of the military.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So what was your first introduction to therapy like? And, what did you expect going in?
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, in the entertainment industry, and drugs were always around. So that was kind of my downfall early on, having a knee surgery at 18 from snowboarding and being introduced to Vicodin. I went down that road pretty quickly. Opiates really, they did a number on me. I got addicted very quickly. And so my first real experience with therapy was in addiction treatment. NA and AA, and then eventually in rehabs, Las Encinas, particularly with Dr. Drew. But none of it worked. It was just a big cycle of, getting more drugs, learning how to get more drugs. And I learned how to get more drugs in rehab than I ever did outside on the street. So yeah, that was my first experience with therapy. I expected to heal going into it. I was open-minded to it, but eventually it just became too expensive, and the community they wanted me to join had too many rules and regulations and things that I didn't agree with. So it just wasn't going to work out for me. And so I parted ways.
Wow. How did you know that you needed a therapist? What was that kind of moment like for you?
I think that, when you're using drugs as heavily as I was, your house it all comes falling down like a house of cards. Like, you start stealing from the people you love, you start lying to people, you lie to doctors was my forte. I was excellent at talking to doctors and getting them to prescribe and see my way. And I had a few doctors that I didn't have to con, and then some doctors that I did have to con, and through that it was a massively expensive habit. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if no one else had interceded and said, hey, you're fucking up, I probably would have kept going. But
who was that person who intervened?
Definitely my mother. My mom has always stood by me, and I've been overdosing in her arms before, and she's just never given up, or always saw the light at the end of the tunnel for me. So that was a big push for me to go get treatment. And then she spent a fortune getting me treatment, which didn't work, which was as well very disheartening and hard, and it breaks a lot of trust and a lot of bridges. But we're back as closer than ever now. So it's,
Wow. Often it takes at least or just one person like that in your life to change the trajectory for a person with severe addiction. It sounds like
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, very severe. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you ever suicidal?
I was, my suicidal ideation came after the military. That's when it really compounded, and I think that it had a lot to do with the Wellbutrin that I was taking.
Okay.
I saw a marked difference between my suicidal ideation while taking that medicine, and then when I got off it,
Yeah.
that it was just a lot. It had
Yeah.
gone away.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until um, it wasn't until recently in the last few years that I did um, heavy journeying inward, LSD, mushrooms, these types of things. And I know that can be contradictory coming from a person who's an admitted addict.
Right.
But when you do these other things with intention and with the purpose of healing yourself, it's not a drug. And in my opinion, it's a tool. And so what these tools did for me was allowed me to journey inward and realize that, I was going to be okay,
Yeah.
and that I was going to be taken care of, and that all the tools that I had to heal myself were within me.
Yeah.
And once those things empowered me, I never really looked back to that either. And it's been a beautiful ride ever since.
Wow. Inspiring. What were some of the challenges you ran into during just traditional mental health treatment? Because I know you went to a
Um,
very prestigious treatment center.
right. Yes. I went to Los Encinas in Pasadena, and yeah, I mean, I guess it was considered top of the line at the time. Maybe still is. I really haven't looked into it, but I I'm sorry. The question was, what did I get out of it?
No, no. What did you run into? What types of
Oh,
challenges
what
did you run
problems?
into?
Yeah. Um, the first one was the medications that they would try to put you on, because I remember I would have to take phenobarbital every few hours just to get through the withdrawal. And
Wow.
that was,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously then I was like, give me whatever the fuck you got. But
Yeah.
looking back is
Trusted them.
is very detrimental. And then before I knew it, I was taking Neurontin, gabapentin, Lexapro, and all these drugs. And I'm just, that was a big thing for me with why I just couldn't get on board with their whole thing, was because like I didn't feel like I was getting off drugs. I felt like I was replacing them with the other ones that you guys were making money off of, the
Yeah.
doctors around me. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that was a huge hurdle for me to trust. And then I think the biggest thing that has always gotten in my way of recovery and therapy is my own intuition, so to speak. I'm easy. I like to read. I like to learn about things. If someone is going to present themselves to try to help me, I'm going to try to learn what they do so I can challenge them and make it, worth my time.
You're a
But
critical thinker.
yeah, I guess a little bit. But the problem with that is when you're a veteran and you're going through the VA system, at
Yes.
the slightest little, and
Challenge.
that's a whole nother thing besides Los Encinas and rehabilitation. But the slightest little challenge, and they're just like, well,
You're
we're done with you.
non-compliant.
Yeah, you're
You get
non-compliant, or
labeled.
you're
Yes.
right. So that was a big hurdle for me, and continued to be huge hurdles. I mean, I mean, we can get into it now or later. I
Yeah,
don't care
sure.
about the VA. I mean, I have a video I'm going to share, because I was able to sneak in my phone when they put me in the padded cell. But it
Wow.
was just, I lived there. I lived at the VA in West Los Angeles for 11 months, 6 months and 5 months, 2 different stays. I established myself as a leader in that community. I gave back. I worked hard. I got back in my son's life. I made the effort at that place, both at the substance abuse track and the combat trauma treatment track at West LA. And a slight argument, and again, these are combat veterans. These are hard individuals,
Mhm.
all put in the same building together.
Major
So
PTSD, to say the least.
complex PTSD is a prerequisite for entrance into the program.
Mm.
Okay, so all of us, my roommate, and just the slightest thing, like not a big deal, but like they moved. I was doing fine, 11 months. They moved rooms. They moved me into a new guy. It was okay. We got into a little argument. Next thing you know, I'm in the VA police car, and I'm being put into a padded room, and I'm being given Ativan, and the alarms are going off. That's why the video I have, you wouldn't believe it if I told you, but I'll tell you. The alarms in the padded cell, there were alarms going off nonstop, like that. And they kept telling me it was a glitch in the fire alarm and stuff like that. They wouldn't let me see my doctor. The doctor wouldn't talk to me. I was literally let go and when I got back to my dorm, my stuff was on the outside, my stuff.
What was the reason for
Because
that kind of intervention?
Because we were yelling at each other, and they thought we were getting aggravated and angry, and now we had no place there anymore.
Wow. Instead of looking at that from a clinical perspective, it became like you're just being unruly, non-compliant. Yeah.
So 11 months of living there, and my stuff's on the side of the road. I'm being dropped off by a police officer. And coming from the addiction, I mean, the Army was a good source of pride for me. It made people come back into my life. They saw me working hard and doing the right things. But my addiction issues and my trust issues with my family and my friends were never gone. And so when you tell them and you make that phone call and you say, listen, I know I didn't do anything wrong, but I just got dropped off by a cop and my stuff's on the side of the road. The first thing they say is, well, you probably used drugs.
Yeah.
And then you can't blame them for that. So that's when I went homeless right then. And I lived in trailer parks and woods and forests, and my mom never gave up on me. She was still present and would help me, but I didn't have a place with her anymore, so to speak, at the time. So
she felt like she needed to tough love you.
Yeah, I don't think that it was tough love. I think that it was really, 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 really extremely difficult for her. And I don't think it came out of tough love. I think it just came out of necessity that she just needed a break.
Gotcha. Wow. Unfortunately, that story I've heard many times, through the VA system. And we're going to get, because I also work with vets, and a lot of times they choose to not, if they can help it, they don't want to get any of their treatment thure the VA, if they can help it,
Right. And that brings up another point, is that my girlfriend and I are both veterans. We're having a baby in November, and we're both fully covered through the VA. Mm-hmm. We could have our baby for free, but we pay private insurance out of fear for our child and her. Wow. So we refuse to have our baby at the VA. We're both disabled veterans. It's not easy to pay for insurance every month, but we are literally paying out of pocket just because we're that scared to have our baby there.
Wow. I think the U.S. government needs to hear that.
I do too. I agree.
And I can't tell you how many times I've heard this in all the years I've worked with veterans. It really breaks my heart, because I do know that the VA has tried to improve their system. And now we have TriWest Choice, right? You know about TriWest Choice, where they can opt to see a civilian provider, which I thought was a great move.
Yeah, but that's only if your provider is if you're not within a VA network. If you have a VA network within 35 miles or so of you, you can't just pick a civilian doctor. Right. Yeah. This is for people that live in rural areas that can only see civilian doctors.
Yeah.
It's a good try, but again, when you get into the nitty gritty of it all,
it's a really broken system.
Right. And it shouldn't be this hard to serve your country. And that's the name of a book that I'm reading right now by an ex-VA secretary. And it's true. It just shouldn't be this hard to serve your country. It shouldn't.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to do better as a nation. And I don't want to forget about that video, okay? So in a little bit, I'd love for you to play it. So
well, no, I'm gonna have to share that on my own time, because I've been holding on to it for years.
Sure.
But yeah. Well, you'll see it, believe me.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I know there's been a lot of negative experiences with your kind of mental health experience. Sorry. What, if any, would you say were some benefits?
Oh, there have been benefits, no doubt. And the VA, for as broken as it is, I did spend 11 months there. I did grow there. I did heal there. I did have a counselor named Stan Whipley, who, I don't know that I would have gotten through it without him. He was just a rock for me. didn't make me sit in his office, and that he was actually kind of an inspiration to me for walk and talk therapy, because we would walk around the VA campus smoking cigarettes and bullshitting and looking at the garden while, you know, we would talk and do
Oh,
our therapy sessions. So that was an amazing experience. But
wow.
I think that any type of mental health, you know, like the domiciliary is what it's called at the VA. That's where you live. We call it the dom,
Yep.
and that's kind of like the mental health place. I mean, maybe you know that. Okay, so at the dom, the best part is not the doctors, it's not the counselors, it's not the, you know, it's the people you meet. It's the veterans, it's the community that you build. The problem with that is that it gets taken away so fast. One graduates, one moves on, and there's no synergy afterwards. There's no
Mm,
way to keep that tribe going.
yeah.
And so people just kind of fall back into their own ways.
Yeah.
That's where Veterans Walk and Talk comes in. This is a place where, you know, it's safe. You can be yourself no matter who you are, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the idea behind it. But Stan Whiffley, it was an amazing inspiration. And you know, I again, the community of veterans is an amazing place to heal.
Yeah. I think shout out to Stan. You know,
Shout out to
oftentimes
Stan.
they're the unsung heroes, you know. And shout out to you for having such a great idea, because
Thank you.
peer support and, you know, kind of taking the traditional therapy, I guess is what I'm saying, doesn't always work, you know, and it's not one size fits all. So I think this is great that you're doing something like this. It really can be a safe place for many veterans. And I'm going to ask you some questions about that in a little bit. But
Okay.
what would you say was one of the things that you really value, that you learned about yourself throughout all of your experience with our mental health system?
I learned that I'm human, and that it's okay to be flawed, and it's okay to question why I feel certain things. I also learned I think the most important thing I learned is what to be vigilant for in my own health and wellness journey.
To
People,
trust yourself.
yeah, well, to trust yourself, and also to trust when people are trying to either, you know, sell you down a river or really trying to help you. So all my experience with that really, you know, gave me a good judge of when, you know, there's genuine, you know, desire to help, or there's some ulterior motive, which, you know, in any industry in America, there's money making people who want to make money, and the addiction and therapy is no different.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Good.
walk us through your experience of normalizing mental health and mental health support in your community, especially as a man who, you know, served in the infantry. What was that
Right.
like?
Well, it was necessary to, first of all, my battalion lost 3 guys in a year of deployment in Afghanistan. We had a couple other wounded. We've lost 7 to suicide since being back.
Wow.
So that's just something that it just impacts you. And because we literally fought in a war, came home, and then they die by their own hand. It's like, it's just the biggest tear of your fabric of being that you can imagine.
Yes.
So it was just important for me to not succumb, especially when my first son was born, Grayson. You know, any man will tell you who's a father, you know, the moment you hold your baby, everything changes. And,
yes.
You know, so for me, when I became a father, that, I'm sorry, I got a little lost there.
No,
I'm so
that's
sorry.
okay. No, that's okay. You know,
can you tell me the question one more time?
yeah, no. So basically, like, you know, did you run into any fears when you started, you know, Veteran Walk and Talk? Did you receive any kind of criticism or ridicule?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, sure. and then thank you for bridging that gap there. But when you take things upon yourself, and as a man, as an infantryman, and as a man who served, and a man in general who
Right.
defines himself as a masculine human being, when you open yourself up to these things, you definitely will receive criticism. I especially receive it from my ex-wife, who has my first son,
Mm-hmm.
for being so open about what it is that does heal me and my intuition towards the world,
Right.
which can be a little bleak, but it's not that I'm just trying to educate people on the fact that, and that's a lot of my criticism, is the fact that I feel strongly that as a veteran who served in a combat position, that
Mm-hmm.
I was used as a tool to make money for corporations, not as a tool to fight for war. And when you start admitting those things and saying them out loud, you receive a lot of kickback.
You lose a few friends.
Yeah, you do, because it's not that necessarily you're wrong, but it's also just something that most people don't want to face.
Yeah.
And my only way I face that, because I've said many times, don't go full veteran. Like, you never go full veteran, because you have to shed that mentality. It's not warrior mentality for the rest of your life. I did 4 years in the infantry. That doesn't make me an infantryman for the rest of my life.
Right.
I take what I value from it. I take the training. I take the calmness under pressure that I learned. I take all of that from it. But
Yeah.
I don't have to carry around that sense of I did good by killing people, pride, which
Yeah.
is so rampant in the corporate veteran community, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you bring up a good point, that it's not, the veterans are not a homogenous group,
Right.
and we need to honor the different perspectives within this culture, right? And the different experiences within the veteran culture. And you're right. A lot of times, if you speak up against it, or if you have a different view from like the majority, it can look like you're not, I'm assuming, you're not patriotic, you're not grateful, you're not appreciative. Did you get any of those kinds of feedback?
Yeah, and honestly, mostly recently, mainly because of the state of the country. It was police brutality, and not my stance and my group stance,
Mm,
heavily against, what's going on, and wanting to participate in the protest. And so that alone has been a significant source of angst, amongst the veteran community. But the the bottom line is, like, there's nobody more capable of leading than the people who have served in our armed services.
mm,
And until we are the ones who step up and say, this is wrong and this is not going to continue, until the veteran businesses that are putting whiskey helps on t-shirts and donating money to the police, are brought into the fold and said, listen, you're not helping the situation, you're hurting the situation. Until all these things happen, the situation is just going to get compounded, unfortunately, because I'm a veterans walk and talk from myself. I can only help so many people. You know what I mean? It just becomes a bit daunting, to be honest.
right. And the thing is, that's the truth for all of us. We can't help everybody,
Yep.
we can only do what we can. And I think the biggest ingredient is, especially right now with the civil unrest, is for us to learn how to really listen and hold space for each other, and to learn
Yes.
to live with our differences, because it's gonna be there. It's not about having differences, it's about how we move through it and what we do about it. So
Right.
so tell us about the impact that you think Veterans Walk and Talk has had on the people that you support.
The impact has been sensational, to be honest. On my own self, it's allowed me to heal and grow and meet people that have changed my life in so many ways.
Yep.
The impact that the group has on itself is I've heard members call it church because we do it on Sundays. It's just our gathering. It's our church. It's our tribe. It's it's our place where we go to get well, where we go to get educated, where we go to get medicine if we need it. If it's the end of the month and you come to a hike with Veterans Walk and Talk and you're low on cannabis, you're likely going to go home with something really great that's going to get you over that hump until you get paid.
Yeah.
So that is an impact. So we impact veterans on a social level, on an economic level, on a tribal level, on a spiritual level. Many of our veteran members are working in the cannabis industry for people that have sponsored our group and looking to hire people in security, in cannabis development, and growing and research all over the country. Myself, I've traveled to Washington, D.C. twice and spoken at the Senate on behalf of cannabis. That privilege alone was afforded to me based on the work I've done with Veterans Walk and Talk. And then now we have leaders in Sacramento and Oklahoma and all over the country who are ready and advocating and protesting and standing on the front lines of what's going to be an amazing revolution in this country. So Veterans Walk and Talk's impact is vast, and that is just the beginning. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow, that's really phenomenal. Really phenomenal.
I agree.
How can people find you or contact you if a veteran is watching or listening and they want to join? And by the way, are non-veterans welcome to join?
Yes. Yeah, great question. Please, thank you for asking that. Our walks are 99% open to everybody. We do some private veteran-only hikes, but honestly, those will happen without anyone just really knowing because it's kind of a system that we have going right now.
Okay.
But yes, if anyone watching this, you are welcome to come walk with us. Our membership form is just an email and some information, and it can be found at veteranswalkandtalk.com, or you can go to Instagram at Veterans Walk and Talk, DM us, and we'll send you the member form. We usually hike 3 times a month. We also do a lot of beach and trail cleanups lately.
Nice.
Just based on the heavy traffic that's been going on in nature and a lot of trash has been going. So at least 2-3 times a week, we're going out and cleaning up. And so that's another way you can come join us too.
Beautiful, Colin. What a service.
Oh, thank you.
What a community service, and really caring for the planet.
It's where I spend most of my time is in the woods. I'm just an avid outdoorsman. I go almost every morning for a few hours, just way out in the woods with my dog alone at dawn. And so when I see it trashed and things like that, it's just kind of like if it was laying in your home, you pick it up. It's the same thing.
Oh, that's so profound. It really is. And I love nature therapy. So I'm so glad that there's actually an organization like yours who's literally introducing this to veterans.
And we hold retreats as well for multiple days at a time where we will facilitate plant medicine, mushroom medicine, and we will have a beautiful campground, feed you the whole nine. It's really nice.
Okay, beautiful. And would you say from your experience you've seen some efficacy with the plant-based treatments that the vets are utilizing?
Absolutely. There's no question. The plant-based and mushroom-based, I like to differ because mushrooms aren't exactly plants.
Sure.
But they're not plants. They're actually, mushrooms are closer to humans on the evolutionary tree than plants are to humans. We share 50% of our DNA with mushrooms. What works for mushrooms can work for us. So that goes for remapping traumatic thoughts and remapping signals in the brain that are going fight or flight, fight. Not just mushrooms either. I'm an ambassador for Heroic Hearts project out of Florida, which is an ayahuasca ceremony for veterans. These things are not, they're not for everybody.
Right.
You have to be willing to sit with yourself and willing to face yourself and look inward. Just if any veterans are watching this or anybody curious on how to get started in their own community about this kind of journey, meditate. It is the best way to get started, because if you can sit alone and not move with your own thoughts for 20 minutes, you will do well on a mushroom experience.
Right. And just meditation in general, it
It's the
changes the
best.
brain. It helps calm our nervous system down. And I mean, there's many benefits that are extensively researched. So thank you for
Yes.
sharing that. And to your point, therapy doesn't look one way, guys. Like there's many different ways that you can help heal yourself and support yourself. And traditional therapy is just one aspect of overall health and wellness. So thank you for sparking that in me. And so I can share
Absolutely.
that.
And walk and talk therapy, it's used in the UK and New Zealand. It is a specialty for actual clinical therapists that they can walk and talk. And I think it's something that America should embrace a lot more. Traditional therapy.
Trust me.
It's all just good. It's all good. If you need therapy, go get therapy.
Thank you. No, but like it's called milieu therapy. So when I used to work with youth.
Oh, interesting.
And I worked at a residential treatment center, that was one of the things we did. We went to the environment. We went to the basketball court. We went to the gym and talked to them and played ball with them, And so it was really awesome because it takes away some of that tension and pressure, and people are not, so it helps with the anxiety as well of having to talk about stuff. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it takes an intuitive human being also to sit there, especially with veterans in my case, because I have to see through the jokes and see through the armor.
Yeah.
That, while they're hiking and they're huffing and they're tired and all of a sudden they make a joke about something very heavy.
Yeah.
My intuition, because I've done this for so long, is to dig deeper into that. Whereas most veterans would just laugh and brush it off.
Yes.
So, it takes two, and then it's something that I'm looking to get more trained in as well. I've been doing it in practice for 4 years now.
You might as well get some,
I don't know. Yeah, I might as well
that you can do
go be Billy Madison. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to turn our attention to the current state of the world. Okay.
Okay.
What kind of impact has the pandemic and the current, civil, racial revolution has had on you mentally, physically, spiritually?
The pandemic, first, because of my group being one that gathers, was very, very difficult, and has been hard on our members who are still facing their fears about coming to gather again. We have had events since the pandemic started. We've used protocols and done the best we can. We don't share smoking devices, anything like that. But we have come to a point now with the pandemic that we feel it's necessary to gather as safely as possible and walk at least in nature, because our mental health is that important.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it safely. The pandemic, as far as medication, because Veterans Walk and Talk does provide medicine for its members whenever possible, that had an impact on me directly, because I had no way of gathering them to give them the medicine. So that was an amazing experience for me, though, because the cannabis community, particularly Callie Blaze and my friend Justin and a few others, they came through for me, gave me medicine, and empowered me to drive and deliver it to our members for free, which was just it helps so much.
At no cost.
Nothing. No cost to me, nothing. No cost to anybody. Wow. And so that I did for a few weeks, and then as it continued, and then things started to get a little bit heavier. The unrest in the country with police brutality and the policing in general is something that I felt very strongly about, but not really faced myself, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But when everything set off like it did, and the people of color that are in my group came to me and they said, "This is devastating to me. I don't know what to do. I'm in pain all the time. I'm crying. I feel like I just can't go on. That every child I raise, that my son that I'm raising is not going to have a future in this world." And these are veteran women. Mm-hmm. And I'm just, it ripped me into pieces. And So I've protested when I can. I'm having a baby in November, so it's not as easy for us to get out. But we are in constant contact with many of the veterans who are on the front lines of the protest, trying to just integrate themselves and be of service. Shout out to Ryan Miller of Operation EVAC and all the guys in Oakland, because they're the ones doing the wall of vets. And, you know, I feel that this country has to face itself very strongly. We are so scared of admitting that we've ever made any mistakes, but this is just a huge mistake that we've made by allowing this system of racial inequality, military-industrial complex, and preying on poor people to just take over our country to the point where people are buying, you know, Pizza Hut pizzas and 2 liters of Pepsi with their, you know, EBT cards. You know, it's just this vicious cycle that's just going to keep people down, and it has to change, and it is changing. And then, you know, I just hopefully just get out and vote in November, and we'll see where this goes from there. But I really do feel, and I have police friends because I was an infantryman, and combat arms tend to put a lot of police into the world.
Right. And,
you know, I know the kind of gear they get. They don't need it. You know, my friends, they'll send me pictures of it. I just got this new night vision and this new scope and shit. And it's like, dude, I mean, like, kids can't even get books in school and, like, or eat. And, like, you're getting new guns and shit, and you don't need it. When have you ever used it? Have you ever used that? No, never used it. Well, okay, that's the point. And so when people say defund the police, it's not a slam. It's not a slight. It's not like, you know, are we capable of policing each other as human beings? No, we're not even capable of merging onto a freeway properly. But we, as a society, you know, need to recognize that money is running this country, and money is going to the wrong people, and money needs to become,
redistribute some of the money to help.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah,
address some of these social and economic inequalities that usually affect people of color. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That would be a good start. And then from there, you just need to clean house. And I mean, I could go on and on about police brutality, but I mean, anyone that has any kind of tainted record should be kicked out, and they need to just start over. There's no excuse for anyone being left around after any kind of racial apple. Right. They all need to be retrained, or and then whoever trained them retrained, and who trained them retrained and retrained and retrained and retrained. And I'll just say this, like, I was an infantryman in Afghanistan. I did shoot people. I shot at people. I blew up myself a couple times. I was a violent individual out there. I never once, and I oversaw one of the first elections that went down there. Never once used tear gas. I never once hit anybody. I never once put anybody on the ground unnecessarily. No one in my unit did ever. The only time we engaged people was when we were being shot at. Now, that being said, we were stormtroopers. We weren't there for the right reasons. We shouldn't have been there. However, the shit I'm seeing the police do is just kids. They're just kids in uniforms that don't know any better, and they've been waiting for this opportunity, and they need to be taught. They need to be retrained quickly. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and so it sounds like what you're doing with this phenomenon is you're making a political, you're not making, but you're actively trying to lobby, protest, educate, right? That's what you're doing with your time and energy. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm trying to convince my friends to run for office. Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Anything I can do. Right now, you know, in Alabama, we have Sean Worsley, who's a veteran who was arrested for his medical marijuana and is put in jail and is still in jail. This was like 4 years ago. And he's you know, so that's something we're very passionate about. You know, there's a lot of work to do, but that's why we do things like this, to educate others. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one of the things I learned in my college education or university education is, if there's one thing I learned and take away from take away from it, you know, after years and years of being there and all the money I've spent, is that the personal is political. And that actually comes from the feminist movement, you know,
Right.
changing the system, changing the politics, changes people's lives and personal experiences, you know, they're
Right.
intertwined. So we have a long ways to go, but hopefully our democracy won't let us down.
Hopefully the younger people get in office and we'll be in good shape.
Yeah. So you're having a baby. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
What kind of lessons would you like to share with your son, Grayson, and your future baby about mental health, about this topic?
Man, I had such a good answer last time. Just saying. No, I would want to share. I would want to impart. I remember my answer now. I would want to impart on my son Grayson and my future daughter Willow that everything that you need is within you. Mm-hmm. That you can trust yourself, even in times where you feel like you have no idea what to do next. If whatever you do is going to be okay, and not to overthink. Not to overthink, and to definitely just trust yourself. That's a huge one for me because I didn't trust myself for so long.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's profound because as a psychotherapist, that's ultimately our goal, is
right.
to help, is to connect people to their own wisdom and inner resources, which essentially is what self-trust is, you know? So that's pure wisdom right there. I can tell you've done some work on yourself.
Just a little bit, yeah.
What has been the most difficult aspect of the pandemic for you?
For me personally, on a personal and selfish level, it's been not being able to go into every doctor's appointment for my baby. That's yeah, it's you know, it's I got to do the ultrasound, which was the big one.
Yeah.
But mainly I just want to be in there to be a champion for my beautiful and amazing girlfriend Cookie, because I know she's so tough and she says everything's fine when I could be like, I don't know, she's not fine. But that's a big thing that's affected me personally. And then I haven't been able to go visit my son in North Carolina since it all happened.
That's right.
So that's been really tough too. Just, you know, having the kids at home all the time, and then my son Grayson in North Carolina, just not being able to see him at all. It's kind of hard for toddlers and people of their age to kind of understand why and how. And then
the parent, I don't think you're selfish at all. I mean, you know, you deserve to be part of that experience. But
I do.
Unfortunately, it's
you gotta be safe. I don't know, you know, but you know, he's going back to school, I think. So it's a whole thing with me, but that's been tough. And then, you know, just making sure that my family's safe. That's mainly my concern. With a pregnant girlfriend, you know, I just want that baby to be happy and healthy and well fed. That's all I really care about at the moment.
How have you been coping with all the stressors?
I have gotten deep into research on mushrooms, not just psychedelic mushrooms, but all medicinal mushrooms. I'm in my lab right now looking at and I'm just starting, so just everybody calm down. Yeah. I have an incubator over here. I have a microscope. I have several strains of mushrooms growing. I have different ways of growing mushrooms. I've got petri dishes with my psyllium growing on it.
You're like a little scientist.
Oh, I'm hooked. I can't get enough. I've got
you need to work for John.
I got cow poop in the fridge downstairs for mushrooms. Like it's just become a whole thing. I'm fixated on them. But once you can grow them yourself, it's just the most magical fucking thing I've ever done. And so I just can't. Here,
you need to work for Johns Hopkins, because I know they're doing a lot of research on this.
They are. See, this is reishi. Can you see that?
the glare,
Yeah.
I can't see well,
Oh,
the
bummer.
glare, but yeah.
We'll have to do another mushroom interview.
I must say,
that's my reishi.
I would not be the best person to do that interview with you. You'd be educating me, you know?
Well, reishi mushrooms are known to kill H1N1 flu and several different viruses. So it's something I've been
Really?
taking regularly since all this started. And so, yeah, growing it myself is just the next step for that. But it's
Wow.
kept me strong, I feel. So
Fascinating. Amazing. I really think like in the next 5 years, I think we said this before, you know,
mhm.
because with all the research that's happening, that psychedelics and, you know, mushrooms are probably going to get some, a brand new kind of image.
A
And
new lease on life, yeah.
yeah. So, lastly, what keeps you hopeful? What helps you stay in forward motion? Because you've gone through a lot.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that. I appreciate that. I have gone through a lot. I'm in a lot of pain all the time. My body's not exactly what it should be. But, you know, when those moments pop up and, you know, things get hard, I take um, comfort in my family, and I'm hopeful for the improvements that I'm making every day, physically and mentally. Despite everything that's going on around me, I'm taking initiative and working out and trying really hard to educate myself on mushrooms and plants. And so these things, empowering myself knowledge wise, has really helped me to zen out about all of this and keep me hopeful about
Mm-hmm.
being able to sustain myself and my family and my tribe going into the future.
Mm-hmm. It sounds to me that this really has given you um, a strong sense of meaning and purpose.
Definitely. I'm definitely a very fulfilled man. I can say that wholeheartedly. I have had several experiences that have brought me to this place. You know, mental health is something that this country is struggling with desperately.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
things like ayahuasca, DMT, mushrooms, these things can change perspectives and change algorithms in your brain
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
Mm-hmm.
That's what DMT did for my fear of death. Um, you know, it's really just about empowering yourself to do the work and knowing that when you look in the mirror, all the tools are there.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to seize them.
Yeah, but that also takes a lot of courage. So, you know, not everybody um, has the courage and the resiliency to keep getting up and doing the work, so to speak. So I want to honor that, and I hope your story inspires many people to never give up, to trust themselves, and to be open to alternative forms of treatment. And
Definitely.
yeah, and that community, we cannot do this without each other. Like, we all need support, we all need each other, we all need belonging, and that's really what you're doing with Veterans Walk and Talk. And you know, sometimes that's better than any drug and any.
I I will admit firsthand that cannabis is the great unifier, but
Mhm.
it is also, in my case, with getting veterans outdoors and back to an active lifestyle, it is in many ways the bait, the catalyst, the thing that will launch them into a higher understanding of what they're capable of.
Yes, yes. So thank you, and thank you for your time.
Of
Um,
course.
Thank you for sharing with us your story and your journey. And I really wish you all the best. I wouldn't be surprised if I see you running for office.
You would be surprised, believe me.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
Well,
thank you. That's so
keep
sweet. Maybe I'll be the guy behind the curtain. So, hey, say this, say this, say this. That'll be me.
take this. This is good.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
exactly,
This,
exactly.
this
This
can
is
help
how
you
you
with this.
relate to the youth. I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah, yeah. Well,
But
thank you
thank you.
so
You're
much,
very sweet.
Colin.
I appreciate you very much.
Namaste. I honor the divine in you. I really do. You're a
That's really sweet.
beautiful soul. Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Right back at you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.